if Bitcoin is this thing that will be able to basically show everybody, hey, look, we can see the system is breaking and is unstable because we're measuring it from this Bitcoin system, because we're measuring via only 21 million Bitcoin will ever exist. Infinite fiat can possibly exist. That number doesn't have a top. Do you foresee them trying to, let's say, burn the lifeboats to take away the ability of people to get Bitcoin? Or is there also a different timeline that we live in where maybe not? Maybe there is more embrace of it from large governments that hopefully get smaller, but governments that are more, let's say, freedom-minded, that respect their citizens' individual liberties. It seems like there's a bit of a clash that's brewing there.
There's a clash that's brewing, and you and I have talked about this before, but that clash is going to brew for years. And there's going to be a lot of more people who are going to try to cheat Bitcoin, potentially even governments. And if you just keep on going back to the first principles, the natural state of the free market is deflation. When measured in the natural state of the free market, then Bitcoin should measure all prices falling forever. Most people don't measure Bitcoin that way. They measure in a US dollar derivative, and they think Bitcoin is going up in value against a US dollar derivative. And you have to remember, these are different systems. One system is the global free market and all prices will fall forever. In that system, you should self-custody. You should add a node. You should create economic nodes. You should spend in Bitcoin, and you should be part of a community that is the first global free market ever. And as you do that, you'll see it everywhere. And that will compete against a system that must increase prices. That system that must increase prices, even in Bitcoin, will likely have a whole bunch of Bitcoiners who sell their Bitcoin for pieces of paper and centralize their Bitcoin. It will likely have a bunch of people who don't go deep enough on what we're describing right now and invest only in ETFs or other derivative instruments, thinking they're getting rich. And they probably will get rich in the piece of paper as well. They'll probably do really well, and it'll reinforce their decision to do it, and they'll keep doing it, and as they reinforce that decision, they'll take more risk because they're measuring in the piece of paper. But that piece of paper is the credit-based system that is the opposite of the global free market. So it has to, at some point, not anytime soon, because you would never try to attack Bitcoin right now from that, because it would fail. But at some point, that system has to try to attack Bitcoin. Has to. And so because the system problem can't be resolved from the system. It can only be resolved through a new system. And so if you're trying to put this new system inside that other system to resolve the paradox of a global free market that is deflationary and the other system isn't, it can't be resolved. The existing system has to centralize faster, has to control more. So it makes perfect sense through that lens that if you're the US and you have to control more, right, that you would think about Canada as a 51st state, that you would want Greenland, that you would want Panama, that you would want all of these things. And so what you're actually describing here is bigger government, bigger control, more things being taken from you because we can protect it better than those people, right? And it's amazing. It's fascinating watching a whole bunch of Bitcoiners get co-opted by that same thing. No, it's just part of the path. It's inevitable that this is part of the path. It always had to look like these because the systems are incompatible together. They're two different systems.
I think it's a very difficult thing for people to wrap their minds around, that yes, this was inevitable, and yes, these two things can never work together at the same time. And there was nothing you could do. As soon as Bitcoin was created and maintained a certain level of decentralization and security for a long enough time, these steps became inevitable pieces of the path that we would all be walking, and it was always going to break. And there was nothing anyone could really do about it. It's just kind of like a mind-blowing thing to think about, that, okay, it is what it is. And so if it is what it is, and this is all part of this path, for the individual, for the person who's thinking about their family, who's looking at this future and even the present and seeing a lot of uncertainty, a lot of chaos, hopefully not a lot of unrest, but probably some unrest. I think that's a natural thing as well. What can that person do who's listening saying, I see all this happening. Okay, I'm being told this is inevitable, that these clashes were going to happen. The existing system will continue to print and print and print. How do I opt out of that? Can I even opt out? How do I protect myself and my family, not just today, not just tomorrow, but for the next years, for the next decades? How do I set up my family for a future where they won't be just slaves in this, whatever the new control structure is?
Primarily, once you understand what we're talking about right now, and this is why you should spend the time, because the biggest challenge here is the cognitive dissonance, moving from the system you've always known. And for 3,000 years, that means we've always lived in a control system. All the isms, capitalism, communism, are all different versions of a control system for 3,000 years. And all the history books we've ever read is this exploitive system that we don't know any better. So I think the first step is, what if there was a better? Right? Would I be willing to explore if there truly was a better, or there might be a better? And as you explore more and more and you realize, oh my God, this really is true. You have this honest ledger that is describing perfectly the global free market. You start to move more of your time into that ledger, and you start to protect it. You run a node. You start to invest in it. You're spending in all of the different places, knowing that the attack is coming. But you could either feed the beast and worry all day long about all of this thing that's getting worse and worse, or you could feed the world that you want to emerge, based on the honest protocol. And I came to this realization that for me, and I think everybody does this, I know you have too, Walker, I realized that the open, decentralized, secure protocol bounded by money didn't care what I thought. And what I thought about it didn't matter. It described perfectly the honest system attacking the other system. And I had to ask myself, which system did I want to spend more time into? And it didn't say anything about Bitcoin. It said something about me.
I think that it's a very profound realization to have, and it's one that as you go deeper down this Bitcoin rabbit hole, I think for most anyway, not for everyone, but for most who are honest about it and able to be honest with themselves, it's a realization that you will inevitably have. I think for a lot of people when they're just starting out, speaking for myself as well, probably speaking, not to put words in your mouth, but probably speaking for you, it takes a while to get to that point. It takes a while to really accept, to come to terms with the cognitive dissonance that you feel, and to realize that you may think that what you're doing in this existing system is just, you have to do it, or this is, you have to stay on this hamster wheel. You have to keep running and running and running, because if you slow down or if you stop, the wheels fall off and you crash and burn and your family's screwed. And what are you going to do? You can't even conceive that you can just step off and somebody else is going to keep running in that hamster wheel. Most people are, but there is a way for you to opt out, but it starts with a choice, right? And I think it's an incremental choice. Is that how you've experienced it as well? It doesn't, you can have that realization, but that realization is the result of many smaller steps building towards it. Buying some Bitcoin, and then great, you bought some Bitcoin, you've got a stake in it. Taking it into your own self-custody, learning how to take care of it, and make sure you keep it secure. Running a node, doing all of these different things along that path that then bring you to that realization. Was that, or maybe for you it happened a lot quicker, but for myself at least, it was a slow process, especially at first, which then accelerated.
Yeah. So in me writing the book, for it took a process for me too, and so I think I've told you this before, but I owned Bitcoin a small portion before writing the book, but I didn't really see it even when I finished the book. I saw it as a potential path forward, but my mind was like really deep into how would people make changes in something that was so big, when we've never, in 5,000 years, we've never had a system that could allow a global free market. Never. So we must be part of the problem. And so for me, I thought Bitcoin, there's no way Bitcoin will, I thought it would fail, or it would have a probability of fail, because we've never seen this before. And so I was looking to something to solve the paradox of two systems that were different, but we always kept falling back into a path of the other system, then promising building institutions that we'd never kill people again, and we'd build fairness, and then it always broke again, and we always fell in the same path. So I was looking for a resolve to that paradox, and when I found Bitcoin, I didn't truly believe that it could withstand us. You've heard me say this, there is no they, it's us. So for my process, going deeper and deeper and realizing that the nodes, by actively running a node, by contributing this, you're encoding the best of us into a protocol that's the best for us. You're actually, that's work. And well, if not me, then who, right? And as I did it, I also realized that your life just gets fundamentally better and better and better, and you tune out all of the noise. You still understand that there's going to be a lot of chaos. It's going to be crazy. A lot of people are going to get trapped. And I have empathy, but you don't have to stay there. You don't have to be one of those people. And I don't think there's average people. I don't think there's those people and me or anything else. I think every one of us can easily see this in time. It just takes time. It takes a curious mind to be able to understand. But do you have to face the fact, unfortunately, that a lot of what you thought was true before was not true, and you were contributing to a system that exploited people all over the planet, and those things are hard to accept.
I agree with that completely, and especially as an American or somebody living in a, quote, Western country in the so-called developed world, coming to terms with the fact that a lot of these control structures, while they do control you, they exert far more control and negative impact on the rest of the world than they do on you directly. And you actually benefit from those control structures more than perhaps you want to admit.